You ever found yourself just staring at a microwave, totally stumped? Or, you push a door that was obviously meant to be pulled? Or maybe you feel like you need an engineering degree just to figure out the TV remote. If you've ever blamed yourself for those moments, well, guess what? This one's for you. We're diving into Don Norman's absolute classic, The Design of Everyday Things, to uncover a really simple but really powerful truth. Okay, so let's just start with the book's single most liberating message. It's this: it is not your fault, right? When you can't figure out how to use some everyday object, the problem isn't you, it's the design. And that's not just, a nice thought to make you feel better. It's a fundamental principle that will completely change how you see the world around you. And hey, this isn't just a problem for us regular folks. The book brings up this amazing quote from Kenneth Olson. This guy was a brilliant engineer who founded a massive tech company, and even he admitted he couldn't figure out how to use the microwave in his own company's break room. I mean, come on, if he can't figure it out, that tells you everything. This isn't about being bad with technology, it's about technology being bad with people. And get this, the author, Don Norman himself, he admits he felt the exact same way. Before this whole thing became his life's work, he was the guy walking into the wrong side of doors, fumbling with faucets, and muttering to himself, "It must be me. I'm just no good with this stuff." And that shared experience, that's the whole foundation of the book. This realization that if everybody is having the same problem, maybe the problem isn't with everybody. Actually, this whole thing became so well known that people started naming these frustrating objects after him. A Norman door, you know the one, that classic door that gives you zero clues about whether you should push it or pull it. Or a Norman switch, which is one switch in a whole row of identical ones, and you have to play a guessing game to find the right light. We have all been there, and now you've got a name for it. So this realization that it wasn't his fault, it led Norman to this huge shift in his perspective. It was a whole new way of seeing the world. He just stopped looking at the user's mistakes and started digging into the object's flaws. And this wasn't just a small change of mind, it was a total professional epiphany that basically reshaped his entire career. You can actually see this shift happen in the title of the book itself. Originally, it was called The Psychology of Everyday Things. But Norman realized that title kind of put the blame right back on the user's brain, on their psychology. So he changed it to The Design of Everyday Things, shifting the focus squarely onto the objects themselves, where it belongs. And the reason for the change was pretty simple and honestly kind of funny. It was a design problem in itself. The word psychology meant that bookstores were shelving it in the psychology section. People looking for books on design would never even see it. He realized his own title was poorly designed for its user, the reader. He had to make its purpose obvious. So how do we start seeing the world like a designer? How do we understand why some things just work and others are a total disaster? Well, Norman gives us this sort of mental toolkit with a few core principles. And I'm telling you, once you learn them, you will not be able to unsee them. Let's break down 3 of the most important ones. It all starts with a story. A friend of Norman's walks into a post office through these big glass doors. He gets a little turned around, and when he tries to leave, he pushes on the doors, and nothing. He tries another set, still nothing. He's trapped between 2 rows of doors, and he starts to panic. So what went wrong here? The problem was a complete lack of clear affordances. Now, an affordance is just a fancy word for a signal in a design that tells you what you're supposed to do. A handle on a door just screams, "Pull me," right? A flat plate says, "Push me." Online, a button that looks like it's popping out of the screen affords being clicked. Those post office doors looked exactly the same from both sides, giving zero clues which way they opened. The design failed to communicate. All right, the next tool in the kit is mapping. This is just the relationship between a control and what it does. Good mapping feels totally natural. But think about a stove where the 4 burners are arranged in a square, but the control knobs are all in a straight line. You always have to stop and think, wait, which knob controls the back left burner? That's just bad mapping. I mean, without clear mapping, we're basically just guessing. Norman gives this incredible example of a slide projector that had a single, unlabeled button. So how did you use it? A short press moved the slide forward, but a longer press moved it backward. Seriously, how could anyone ever figure that out on their own? It's completely arbitrary. There's no logical connection there, and that's the definition of bad design. And finally, there's visibility, or what you might call feedback. Good design shows you what's going on. That little progress bar when you're downloading a file, that's great visibility.
Norman tells this story about being in his office when a phone starts ringing. It rings a few times, then stops. Then he hears another phone ringing way down the hall. He's literally running from office to office, chasing the call, but because the system is invisible, he has no idea what it's doing. Without feedback, we're just flying blind. Now, you might be thinking, okay, with these principles, we should be able to solve everything, right? But Norman points out this really fascinating challenge that comes with new technology, something he calls the paradox of technology. You can see it really clearly with this U-shaped curve. Technology often starts out super complex and hard to use, like the very first radios with all their different knobs and dials. Then, as the industry figures things out, it gets really simple and intuitive. But then manufacturers start cramming in more and more features, and suddenly the device is complicated all over again, just loaded with buttons and menus. Just think about a basic digital watch. It can be a timer, a stopwatch, an alarm, all controlled by maybe 2 or 3 buttons. And that's the paradox. Anytime you have more functions than you have controls, the operation becomes totally arbitrary and confusing. That's when you have to remember nonsense like, okay, hold this button for 3 seconds, then press that one twice. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, understanding these principles doesn't just help you feel less frustrated. It actually gives you a new way to see the world. It's almost like a superpower for navigating your everyday life. This is Norman's promise to you. Once you start noticing affordances and mapping and feedback, you stop blaming yourself and you start critiquing the design. You begin to see the hidden logic, or, the lack of it, in every single object you use. And these principles, they're not just for designers, they're for us, the users. We should demand products that make their function visible. We should expect controls that have a natural, logical mapping. And we should have products that are designed for error. Because let's be honest, we all make mistakes. And when all else fails, standardize it. The hot water tap should always be on the left, period. And that brings us to our final thought. The next time you find yourself pushing the door you were supposed to pull, or you can't figure out some new gadget, just take a second. Instead of feeling foolish, ask yourself, how could this have been designed better? Who are you going to blame? The person in the mirror or the person who designed it? The choice is a powerful one, and it can change your relationship with the world of things forever.